Good morning, Apple bread bakers. It is 10 o'clock on Sunday morning here on the Pacific Coast, and we are ready to bake our bread. So now, before you do anything else, there are a few steps that you need to do so we can get started. I've already started. First of all, take your bread dough out of the fridge, and if you can, put it in the freezer. Then you put your Dutch oven into your oven and heat up the oven to 450 degrees. So you can listen to me while you do all of that. When I set this up, I thought, how can I accommodate all the different ovens and temperatures and things like that? And what I came up with is this. So I started about 10-15 minutes ago putting my dough into the freezer and heating up my oven and the Dutch oven. We put the bread in the freezer because then it's a little bit tighter and we have more time for scoring and so on. That's a little trick. Don't freeze your dough. Just leave it in there for the 10-15 minutes it takes to heat up your oven. We have an electric convection oven that seems to have a very consistent temperature. So if it says 450 degrees, it's ready to go. Your oven might need a little bit longer to preheat. It might not be a convection oven, and so on. There's a lot of discussion on internet forums what oven is best. Really, you've got to figure out what works for you, for your method, for your bread, and so on, and then tweak it. So that's, unfortunately, I can't really give you an answer for that. This is what I figured out what is best for the bread I bake. So 450 degrees, some recipes say 500 and then reduce it to 450. We're going to bake this bread with the lid closed for 20 minutes. And then I just take the lid off and bake it another 20 minutes because my convection oven, our convection oven, circulates the air and it goes all around the dough. If yours doesn't do that, so if after the first loaf the sides of your bread seem to be underbaked, you will have to take it out of the Dutch oven and put it right on the oven rack. The other thing that I do that a lot of people don't do is I do not take my big heavy Dutch oven out of the oven. And I will show you later how I work that. If you need to do that, that's just great. Just be very, very careful. 450 degrees is very, very hot. So this is a very important tool that I'm showing you here. There are high temperature oven gloves. There are different kinds that you can find in stores or on Amazon. Some of them are neoprene, like slippery neoprene. They look like big latex gloves. They seem to work as well. These ones are Kitchen Grips brand that I use that work quite well, although they do wear out after a couple of years. And some people just use barbecue gloves. Barbecue gloves are also made for high heat. The one thing that I would suggest is make sure that your gloves fit long enough on your arm, because you do not want to burn your arm on the oven door or the Dutch oven. So that's what it is. The other tool we're going to need is that lamb or the sharp knife or just the razor blade that we talked about yesterday. Another tool that I will be using is the bread sling. If you want to make your own bread sling, you can do that with a little course on my website. or you can just order one on Amazon or wherever. It just saves the parchment paper. So if you don't have that, by all means, use a big piece of parchment paper that is big enough to set your bread into the Dutch oven and then later on lift it out. So that is one thing. And then there's one tip that I learned a little bit further down in my, oh, the oven is hot. One tip that I learned a little bit along the line when I started baking sourdough is we use the Dutch oven to keep the steam in close to the bread. If you want to increase the steam to get a bigger, more oven spring, so a higher bread, you can add up to 2 ice cubes into the Dutch oven. They melt, they bring in moisture into the Dutch oven and increase the steam. For this apple bread, we might not need it. I'm going to put it in anyway. We might not need it because the apples give it a lot of moisture. You might have noticed when you shape the bread that it kind of got a little messy. I know my Banneton is quite messy as well. The liner is soaked with apple juice right now. I'm going to have to wash that, but it's definitely worth it. So my oven is warm. My dough is in the freezer. I'm going to take it out now and I'm going to score it and then put it in the oven. So I'm going to switch to the other camera. There we are. I'm going to take the bread, the dough out of the freezer. I'm making sure that I'm actually under the camera. That's a little tricky under the counter. Here's my dough. You see the apple juice has soaked into the liner. We need to make sure that you need to make sure that you really dry that well and properly wash it after this. So I'm putting the bread sling on top of my Banneton and turn everything upside down. And if I lift it off, there's my dough. So yours might look similar. And in this case, especially in this case, I really only want to do up to 1 or 2 scores. So I angle the blade a little bit, and then I score about as much, not quite as much as the razor blade sticks out. So deep enough that it works, but not too deep. We do the scoring because we want the bread expand upward and not outward. Especially with my big Dutch oven, that can be a problem. So now I'm going to quickly switch cameras so that you don't get seasick, because I'm going to switch the camera so you can see how I stick it in the oven. I really should do this in a TV studio. So I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, that should show the oven. So the oven is at 450 degrees. I'm putting on my trusty gloves. When I open the oven, you see that the Dutch oven is just waiting for us. So open it up, pull it out a little bit. I'm leaving the Dutch oven in there because I can reach it. I put the bread in. I dump 2 ice cubes into the Banneton. You hear it sizzling, maybe, and then I'll put the lid on top, closed so that it is closed. And there we go. So now, hey Google, set a timer for 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes. And that's starting now.
So I started a timer for 20 minutes. I'm gonna bake the bread for 20 minutes. Do not open the lid because you're gonna let the steam escape. And in 20 minutes, I'm going to take the lid off. In my case, I am just going to take the lid off, put it away, and close the oven again, because the convection oven will bake the bread, will finish baking the bread. So, and then after another 20 minutes, so after 40 minutes, I take the bread out and put it on a cooling rack and leave it cooling for, yes, 2 hours. Sometimes I cheat a little bit and go an hour and a half. The key is, yes, it will smell really nice in your kitchen. You will have a lot of hungry family members itching to break into that bread, but the baking process inside the bread continues. So we need to give it some more time to finish baking, to cooling down, and then using a sharp bread knife cutting into it. So that's cool. I'm not going to leave you online for like hours now, because even I would run out of things to talk about sourdough. I'm just going to let you bake here. If you feel free to leave some comments, I'm going to stay online for a little while. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I just wanted to talk about my bread knife. A lot of sourdough bakers are complaining when they start that it's so hard to cut their bread because the crust is more crispy. It's harder to cut the crust, harder than your general store-bought yeast bread. And so the best solution for that is getting a good serrated bread knife. I bought this one. We bought this one. This is a Mercer 10-inch bread knife. We bought this from Amazon. It was not too expensive, and we use it every week. So that is a good investment. Or find one on Facebook Marketplace. If it's not sharp, take it to a sharpening place, and that is an investment of $7 that you won't be regretting. So that is that tip. Now, I'm going to bake this bread and then wait 2 hours, and then I cut it open, and that is always a interesting moment, and you will see on my Instagram, on my YouTube videos, that's always the big thing, the reveal. How did it look inside? Don't be discouraged if it doesn't look as perfect as the professional bakers show you. We want to have an even crumb, so the bubbles, the holes should be evenly distributed over the bread. They should not be too big and not too small. There shouldn't be anything on the bottom. There are some things, if it happens to happen that there's a layer on the bottom that is fairly dense, then the bread wasn't totally proofed. It doesn't really matter too much, because the taste and the quality of the bread is still excellent. This particular apple bread will have swirls of apple and cinnamon in it, which is nice. It will not be totally distributed evenly. There might be some areas that at first look a bit underbaked, but once they dry a little bit, you will notice that they are baked. So that's what I experienced with the first couple of loaves. So that's one of the things. If you baked along and you got to this point, congratulations, that's great. This is not the easiest bread to bake. This has some extra tricks. I would love to hear what you thought of this. This was the first Bake With Me session. The first time I did this, The tech didn't quite work 100%. Yesterday we had a bit of a problem with the live stream. I hope that you got all the emails. There's a lot of different emails with a little Apple emoticon in it. Let me know how it worked for you. Let me know what you would have liked to see that I should do better in the next time. And I actually had a lot of fun with this. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'd like to do another Bake With Me session in the future, probably with a more basic bread. But this one was in concert with our local drive to have people use more apples, because our apple growers have lost their co-op and their opportunity to store apples and bring them to market. So we are eating apples like never before here. A lot of people do. A lot of restaurants have created apple recipes and so on. So I wanted to take part in this to bake an apple bread, and I hope you really enjoy it. Let me know either by email or in the comments on the video or on my website or socials how it turned out. Maybe share a picture and maybe share like how you liked it. Maybe a little review would be great. And I hope you enjoy your bread. Keep on baking, and I will send you recipes by email as they arrive, as I publish them, so you can discover new baking things, breads and things to use your discard and things like that. Happy Sunday, enjoy your bread and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.